Okay, so today we are going to start on the trigo ratio of obtuse angle. What's the meaning of trigo ratio? What do you understand about trigo ratio? It's actually dua, ka, so. Okay, so trigo ratio means sine theta, cosine theta, tangent theta. So these are trigo ratio. Now what I want you to do is this. Okay, I want you to press sine 60. What is the value in your calculator? Please ensure that your calculator is in degree mode. Numerical value, the ratio is, sine 60 is a trigo ratio. So what's the ratio? Yes, 0.866. Very good. Now, press sine 120, and the trigo ratio is 0.866. What about the sign? Is it the same sign or opposite sign? It is the same sign. Now, do you realize something special about 60 and 120? They add to 180. So they do add to 180. One of them is acute, one of them is obtuse. So the rule here is this. If we have a sine theta, let's say the acute one, it will be the same ratio as the obtuse one. 180 minus theta. Okay. So what does it mean? Sine of this, the ratio, sine of this, which is opposite over hypo, right, will be the same as sine of the obtuse one, which is also opposite over hypo. So you can do that. All right, it's like a trick like that. To find the sine ratio, okay, later you see in that question, right? We will have opposite over hypo. So now, how do I find the sine of this? Later you see is also opposite over hypo. It's the same. Okay, the sine acute and the sine obtuse are the same. As long as you know that these two angles are the angles like on the straight line, they add up to 180. Okay, now for cosine 60, press your calculator. What you get? You get 0.5. Yeah, you do try to experience it. You press and you will see 0.5. Okay, now please press. You realize that 60 and 120 again add up to 180. But what is this? Okay, yes, the trigo ratio of this obtuse angle is negative 0.5. So the concept is this. The cosine of theta and the cosine of 180 minus theta. Okay? If this is acute, this will be the obtuse one on the straight line. What is the relationship? They have the same numerical value, but what's the difference? The sign is the same. The signs are different. I want you to write the trigo ratio. What is another trigo ratio I can write so that these two values are the same one? Actually, I want you to write sign a value here. What number do you think I can use? Such that the left hand side and the right hand side have the same value. It cannot be 126, it must be another. Okay. Right? So this is the obtuse one. So I would like you to find the acute one. What angle do you think I can write? Yes, I can write 180 minus 126. And Samjin, the answer is? Yes, sine 54. Now you don't believe me, you press sine 54 and you press sine 126, they will give you the same ratio. They will give you the same numerical value. Okay, let's move on. Now, the cosine obtuse, right? I want you to write a cosine acute. The cosine acute. These are, what do you think you will write here on the right hand side? What angle do you think you can use? You all say 26. Okay, now look here. If I put cosine 26, something wrong. Something wrong. You press this and you press this. They are not exactly the same. What is wrong here? In my equation, what do you think is wrong? Or what do you think is missing in my equation? The difference is the negative sign. If you press the black ratio and you press the blue ratio, you realize that one of them is negative. This one here is negative, right? This one here is positive, right? So the sign are different. In order to balance it, the left hand side and the right hand side, you need to add a negative sign in front. Okay, so later when you do the question 1, please be a bit careful. The sign obtuse and the sign acute are equal, exactly the same. Now the obtuse acute again, I mean These two angles add up to 180, must add up to 180. Now for the cosine obtuse and the cosine acute, the difference is a negative sign. So your question is, where do I put the negative sign? Do I put it on the right hand side or do I put it on the left hand side? Doesn't matter where you put, but because we are answering a question like this is the question, right? This is the answer. So since we are answering it, we put it on the right hand side because this is the answer space. During your exam, this will be a 2 marks question and there will be 2 answer space. How do I find theta? What must I press? Y'all do Tuakaso for 1 whole week already. Correct. You press inverse of sine. Can you press now? For those who are not here, to get this button, take out your calculator, press second function. Unless you can get the calculator from the front. You got already? Okay. And then you press the sign. You will get this. So your job is to press sine inverse 0.5. Again, now how do you get this? You press second function sine. Then you press 0.5. Everybody got 30, right? Then you will be scratching your head now. Hey, why got one more blank down there? Yeah, the other angle should be? Got it? 150, Who don't know how I got 150? Be honest and just raise your hand. I will explain in detail. Okay, if I press sine 30, it's the same as pressing sine what? This is the acute one. What do you think will be the other one? 180 minus 30, right? So it's the same as pressing sine 150. So I can press sine 30 to get 0.5. I can also press sine 150 to get 0.5. Now the 30 will be given by your calculator. This will be given. You press inverse, you get 30. This will be the acute one. For the obtuse one, you have to do it by yourself. The calculator gives you 30, you must know, hey, there's an empty space. Oh no, what must I do? I must minus by 180 long. That's how students remember. Now, this is very simple now. I got only one answer space. You press your calculator, what do you get? Cosine theta is 0.866. Find theta. Find theta.
30.
Okay, come, we are almost done already. 30.0, right?
Yeah.
So if there's only one answer space, do I need to minus by 180? You cannot minus by 180 anymore. So there's no answer space here. You know why? You try pressing cosine 150, you will not get this number here. I guarantee you. You press cosine 150. What will you get? You have to try?
Negative.
Yeah, you actually get negative. You get negative 0.866. But the question is positive 0.866, right? Yeah. So this is not what we want now. We don't want negative 0.866. So that's why the answer space got only one answer space. So your job is very simple only. Your job is whether to solve sine or cosine, you just inverse it. But if you see another answer space, can you say out what must you do? Minus by 180. Okay, that's your job, lor. Now, sine is opposite over hypo. This is the angle ACB. So let's call this angle here theta. So what is this side called? Opposite, adjacent, or hypo? Okay, now this is the opposite. And then this will be your hypo. And the last one definitely will be your adjacent. Now for sine, theta is actually opposite over hypo, right?
Yeah.
Because we are looking at Tuakaso. Hey, but I need the opposite. There's no opposite there. Then how? During exam. This is actually a 3-mark question down here. I will use Pythagoras theorem. 13 square equals to 5 square plus x square. This is 5. This is 13. Let's call this x. So in order to find x square, I will have 13 square minus 5 square first. Yeah, then you square root. Correct. So x will be the square root of 13 square minus 5 square. And some of you may even know this number. What do you think this number is? Yeah, it's 12. So now I know that my opposite here equals to 12. You get 2 marks for this. Just using Pythagoras theorem. Now for the last mark, can we put in the opposite value and the hypo value? The opposite is, what number? Just tell me the number. Look at the diagram. It's in your worksheet question 3. The opposite is 12. The hypo is 13. Another easy 3 marks. Pythagoras theorem to find this. And then this one you have done for the previous few worksheet already, right? Opposite over hypo. Now this is something new. I want to find sine ACD. Yeah, so this angle is actually the 180 minus theta, right? So don't worry, very simple only. Sine of this angle will be the same as sine of this angle. We have done this many times already. The sine of the acute and the sine of the obtuse are the same ratio. Same. So the answer will still be 12 over 13. How do I get that? To get the sine ratio of the obtuse, you just use the sine ratio of the acute. Opposite over hypo. Still 12 over 13. Okay, still 12 over 13. Because the sine obtuse and the sine acute are equal value as long as they add up to 180. Okay, last two already. I use red color for these two. Now, ACD cosine. What is the ratio? You can do it one. Come. It's adjacent over hypo, right? Adjacent over hypo. What is the adjacent value? 5. And the hypo value? 13. I hope you don't find that this is something new. You have done this a few times, right? If I now want to find cosine of ACD. So I know that cosine of ACD is the same as cosine of ACD. These two are the same, almost the same. But the only difference is you must add a negative. So this one will be negative 5 over 13. To find cosine of this angle, you just need to find the cosine of this angle, but you must add a negative sign. So if the whole lesson you got only one thing to remember, all you need to remember is this one. I put an arrow here. To find the cosine of the obtuse, you just find the cosine of the acute. But what must you do? Add a negative law. That's all for today's lesson. Now when I change the angle to angle A now, my opposite, adjacent all change. Alright? So what is tangent? It is the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, be careful. Please be careful. Okay, this is you know that this is the last part already, right? What is the opposite value? Say it out. Okay, I point to you. This is my angle now. Angle BAC. What is the opposite value? Yeah, it's 5. And the adjacent is 12. Because the opposite has changed now. This is now your opposite. And then this one now is your adjacent. Okay, this is your new opposite. Because the angle changed, so the opposite changed, the adjacent changed, and this is my final answer. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like almost a 7-mark question already. All right, so that's all for today.